The knock came at 12:47 a.m., three sharp raps that jolted me awake in the darkness of the bunkhouse. My heart hammered as I stared at the door, listening to the wind whistle through the Wyoming plains. Then his voice, low and urgent, "Open up, we need to talk about what happened today." I knew exactly what he meant, and I knew that opening that door would change everything between us. 3 weeks earlier, the truck lurched over another pothole and I gripped the passenger door handle, watching the endless expanse of golden prairie stretch toward mountains that looked painted against the sky. My best friend's voice crackled through my phone speakers, tinny and distant. "You're really doing this, trading your marketing job for, what, shoveling horse manure?" I laughed, though it came out shaky. "It's called ranch work, Marcus, and yeah, I'm really doing this." "Running away, you mean?" The words stung because they were true. I was running from the breakup that had shattered me, from the city that suddenly felt suffocating, from a life that had stopped making sense somewhere along the way. My college roommate's uncle owned the Twin Pines Ranch and needed seasonal help. When the offer came, I'd packed my bags within a week. "I'm not running," I lied. "I'm finding myself." Marcus snorted. "You sound like you're about to join a cult. Just promise me you'll come back when you realize you hate it." But as the truck crested a hill and the ranch spread out below, weathered barns, grazing horses, and endless sky, something in my chest loosened for the first time in months. The ranch manager, a weathered man named Dale with a handlebar mustache, gave me a firm handshake and a knowing smile. "City boy, huh? Don't worry, we'll work that out of you." He gestured toward a younger man leaning against a fence post about 50 yards away. "That's Wyatt, our foreman. He'll show you the ropes." My stomach did an unexpected flip. Wyatt was tall, maybe 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his worn denim shirt. A black cowboy hat shaded his face, but I could see the sharp line of his jaw, the easy confidence in the way he stood. As we approached, he straightened and our eyes met. His were the color of whiskey in sunlight, amber and warm and startlingly direct. Something passed between us in that moment, a current of recognition that made no sense. I didn't know this man, but the way he looked at me made my breath catch. "Wyatt Kane," his voice was deep with a western drawl that wrapped around the syllables. His handshake was firm, calloused. "Welcome to Twin Pines." "Ethan Reed," my voice came out steadier than I felt. "Thanks for having me." One corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile but close. "Don't thank me yet, we start at 5 a.m. The bunkhouse was simple but clean, 4 beds, though I was the only seasonal worker at the moment. Wyatt helped me carry my bags inside, his presence filling the small space. He showed me where everything was: the bathroom, the kitchenette, the storage for work clothes. "You'll want to get proper boots," he said, eyeing my sneakers. "Those won't last a day." "I have hiking boots in my car." "Not the same?" He pulled open a trunk in the corner, rummaged through it, and emerged with a pair of worn leather work boots. "Try these, they were mine when I first started here. If they fit, they're yours." I sat on the edge of the bed and unlaced my sneakers. The boots slid on perfectly, molding to my feet like they'd been waiting for me. When I looked up, Wyatt was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Good fit," I said. "Yeah," he cleared his throat, broke eye contact. "Get some sleep, tomorrow's gonna be rough." After he left, I lay in the unfamiliar bed, staring at the ceiling. The silence of the countryside was deafening after years of city noise, but it wasn't the silence keeping me awake. It was the lingering warmth of Wyatt's gaze, the way my skin had tingled when our hands touched during the handshake. I told myself it meant nothing. I was just raw from the breakup, projecting onto the first attractive person I met. By morning, it would pass. I was wrong. The rooster crowed at 4:45 a.m. and I stumbled out of bed feeling like I'd barely slept. Wyatt was already in the barn when I arrived, moving through the pre-dawn darkness with practiced ease. He handed me a pitchfork without comment. "We start with feeding," he said. "Follow my lead." For the next 2 hours, we worked in near silence. I learned the rhythm of ranch mornings, the smell of hay and leather, the soft sounds of horses stirring, the gradual lightening of the sky. Wyatt moved with an economy of motion that spoke of years of experience, and I found myself watching him more than I should have. The way his forearms flexed when he lifted feed bags, the concentration in his eyes when he checked a horse's leg, the gentle murmur of his voice when he calmed a skittish mare. "You're starring," he said without looking at me. Heat flooded my face. Sorry, just trying to learn how you do things. Now he did look at me and there was something almost amused in his expression. You learn by doing, city boy, not watching. The nickname should have annoyed me, but the way he said it, warm, almost affectionate, made my heart skip. The days fell into a pattern. Up before dawn, work until dusk, collapse into bed exhausted. My muscles screamed in protest for the first week, but gradually my body adapted. My hands developed calluses, my skin darkened under the relentless sun, and slowly, almost without realizing it, I began to change. Wyatt was patient in a way I hadn't expected. When I messed up, and I messed up often those first weeks, he never made me feel stupid. He'd just show me again, his hands guiding mine until I got it right. Those moments of closeness became the highlights of my days. When he stood behind me to adjust my grip on the reins, when our shoulders bumped as we worked side by side in the tack room, when he reached past me to grab a tool, his chest briefly pressing against my back. Each touch felt electric, charged with something I was afraid to name. 3 weeks into my stay, everything changed. We were out on the range, checking fence lines. The Montana summer sun beat down mercilessly, and I'd made the rookie mistake of not bringing enough water. By early afternoon, I was lightheaded and stumbling. Wyatt noticed immediately. You okay? Fine, I said, but my vision was swimming. The next thing I knew, his arm was around my waist, supporting my weight. Shade now. He half carried me to a cluster of cottonwoods and eased me down against a trunk. His canteen appeared at my lips. Drink, slow. I obeyed, too dizzy to protest. The water was warm but tasted like salvation. Wyatt crouched in front of me, his hat pushed back, concern creasing his forehead. You gotta tell me when you're struggling, he said, and there was something raw in his voice. This land doesn't forgive carelessness. I didn't want to seem weak. Weak, he laughed, but there was no humor in it. Ethan, asking for help isn't weakness, it's survival. The way he said my name, not city boy but my actual name, sent a shiver through me despite the heat. Our eyes locked, and the air between us seemed to thicken. He was so close I could see the flecks of gold in his amber eyes, could smell the mix of leather and sage that clung to his skin. His gaze dropped to my mouth, just for a second, but I saw it, felt my breath catch in response. Then he pulled back abruptly, standing up and turning away. Rest for 20 minutes, then we head back. He walked to the edge of the shade, his back to me, shoulders tense. And I sat there, heart racing, wondering if I'd imagined the moment or if it had been as real as the ground beneath me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene, the feel of his arm around me, the intensity in his eyes, that split second when everything had seemed to hover on the edge of something profound. I heard the bunkhouse door creak open and sat up. Wyatt stood silhouetted in the doorway, his hat in his hands. Can't sleep either, his voice was quiet. Too hot. Yeah, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Listen, about today. It's fine, I interrupted, not sure I wanted to hear what he was going to say. I'm grateful you were there. He crossed to the window, staring out at the moonlit landscape. I shouldn't have, he trailed off, shook his head. This job, it's all I've got, I can't afford to complicate things. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? He turned to face me, and even in the dim light I could see the conflict in his expression. You know what I'm talking about, Ethan. I see the way you look at me, and God help me, He cut himself off, jaw clenching. You what? My voice was barely a whisper. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unsaid. Then Wyatt put his hat back on, pulling the brim low. Get some sleep, long day tomorrow. He left before I could respond, and I lay back down, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. After that night, Wyatt kept his distance. He was still professional, still helpful, but the easy camaraderie we'd been building had evaporated. He assigned me tasks that kept us apart, me in the barn while he rode fence, me sorting tack while he worked with the horses. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. I tried to convince myself it was for the best. I wasn't here for romance. I was here to heal, to figure out who I was outside of my failed relationship. Getting involved with my foreman, with a man who clearly had his own reservations, was a terrible idea. But logic didn't stop my heart from sinking every time he avoided my gaze, didn't stop me from lying awake replaying his almost confession, didn't stop the ache in my chest when I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. 2 weeks of this careful distance passed, then came the storm. Montana summer storms are violent, sudden things. One minute the sky is clear, the next it's black with roiling clouds. We were moving a small herd to higher pasture when the first drops fell. Within minutes, it was a deluge. "Cabin," Wyatt shouted over the thunder, pointing toward a distant structure. "Go." We rode hard through sheets of rain, the horses spooked but obedient. The cabin was a small line shack used by ranch hands during extended range work. We burst through the door, soaked to the bone, and Wyatt immediately moved to calm the horses and secure them under the small overhang. I stood dripping in the single room, shivering despite the warm air. Wyatt came back inside, water streaming from his hat brim, and began stripping off his outer shirt. "You need to get out of those wet clothes," he said, not looking at me. "There's a trunk with supplies, should be some dry things." I found a wool blanket and a couple of old flannel shirts, turned my back to change, acutely aware that Wyatt was doing the same just a few feet away. When I turned around, he was building a fire in the small stone hearth, his damp undershirt clinging to his torso. The firelight flickered across his features as the storm raged outside. We sat on opposite sides of the room, the blanket wrapped around my shoulders, neither of us speaking. The tension was unbearable. "How long will it last?" I finally asked. "Storm could be hours," he poked at the fire, sending sparks spiraling. "We'll wait it out." More silence, then almost against my will, the words spilled out. "Why are you avoiding me?" His hand stilled on the poker. "I'm not." "Yes, you are. Ever since that night you came to the bunkhouse, did I do something wrong?" "No," the word was sharp. "You didn't do anything wrong." "Then what?" "Because I thought we were becoming friends, and now you can barely look at me." He set the poker down carefully, stood up, and crossed to the window. Rain lashed against the glass. When he spoke, his voice was low, strained. "Friends, yeah, that's the problem." My heart began to race. "What do you mean?" He turned to face me, and the look in his eyes made my breath stop. "You really gonna make me say it?" I stood up, the blanket falling away. "Say what?" "That I can't stop thinking about you." The words came out rough, almost angry. "That every time you smile at me I forget what I'm doing. That when I saw you nearly pass out from heat exhaustion it scared me more than anything has in years. That I lie awake at night wanting." He cut himself off, dragging a hand through his damp hair. I took a step toward him, then another. "Wanting what?" "Things I can't have." His jaw clenched. "You're leaving at the end of the season, you've got a whole life waiting back in the city, and I'm a ranch hand, Ethan. This is my world, fences and horses and endless sky. It's not your world." "You don't know that." "Don't I?" His laugh was bitter. "You think I haven't seen this before? City people come out here, romanticize the cowboy life, then can't wait to leave when they remember they miss their coffee shops and their Wi-Fi and their—" "You're wrong." I was close enough now to see the pulse jumping in his throat. "You think I'm romanticizing this? I came here broken, Wyatt. My life fell apart and I didn't know how to put it back together. But being here, working beside you, learning from you, it's the first time in a year I've felt like myself." His eyes searched mine. "Ethan." "I'm not asking for promises," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not asking you to figure out the future. I'm just asking you to stop running from whatever this is between us." The storm outside seemed to hold its breath. Wyatt's hand came up, hesitated, then cupped the side of my face. His palm was rough and warm, and I leaned into the touch. "I don't want to hurt you," he whispered. "Then don't push me away." For a long moment we just stood there, the firelight dancing across us, the rain drumming on the roof. Then Wyatt's thumb brushed across my cheekbone and he leaned in. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, questioning. His lips were soft despite their weathered appearance, and he tasted like rain and mint and something indefinably him. My hands found his shoulders, steadying myself as the world tilted. Then the kiss deepened, and all the weeks of tension, of wanting, of fighting against this, poured into it. His arms came around me, pulling me closer, and I made a sound in the back of my throat that would have embarrassed me if I'd been capable of caring about anything except the way he was kissing me like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Wyatt rested his forehead against mine. "This is crazy," he murmured. "Probably. You're still leaving in 3 months. Maybe. He pulled back to look at me, maybe. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. Ask me again in 3 months. After that night, everything shifted. We didn't broadcast our relationship. Ranch life had its share of conservative attitudes, and Wyatt's job security mattered. But in the stolen moments, working late in the barn, riding out to check distant pastures, the quiet hours before dawn in the bunkhouse, we built something. Wyatt taught me about the land, about reading weather in the clouds and finding water by the growth of certain plants. He showed me his favorite spots: a hidden valley where wild horses sometimes grazed, a creek bed full of smooth stones, a ridge where you could see 3 mountain ranges at sunset. And I showed him pieces of myself I'd kept hidden. Talked about my failed relationship, about feeling like I'd been living someone else's idea of success instead of my own, about the fear that I'd never figure out what I actually wanted from life. "You're figuring it out," he said one evening as we sat on the bunkhouse steps watching the stars emerge. "I see it in you. You're different than when you first got here. How? More solid, like you fit in your own skin now." I leaned my head against his shoulder. "That's because of you." "Nah," his arm came around me. "It's because you finally stopped running long enough to listen to yourself." But our bubble of happiness was fragile, and it shattered on a Tuesday in late August. I was in the barn organizing tack when I heard raised voices from the main house. One was Dale, the ranch manager. The other was unfamiliar, a younger voice, arrogant and sharp. "I don't care what your arrangement is with my uncle, I'm changing things when I take over." My stomach dropped. Dale's nephew, the one who was supposed to inherit the ranch eventually. "Your uncle's not dead yet, Tyler." "Might as well be with his health, and when I'm in charge, I'm bringing in a real operation. Modernizing, that means clearing out the dead weight." I edged closer to the barn door, listening. "Wyatt's the best foreman in 3 counties, Dale said, his voice hard. "Wyatt's old-fashioned and overpaid. I can hire 2 hands for what you pay him, and that city boy he's got playing cowboy, gone, day one." I felt like I'd been punched. When I looked up, Wyatt was standing at the other end of the barn, his face pale. He'd heard everything too. That night we sat in the bunkhouse, the weight of the overheard conversation hanging between us. "Dale's still got years left," I said, trying to convince myself as much as Wyatt. "Tyler's just running his mouth." "Dale's got a heart condition." Wyatt's voice was flat. "Had 2 scares already this year. Tyler's not wrong that he might take over sooner rather than later." "So what are you saying?" He looked at me and I saw the resignation in his eyes. "I'm saying this was always temporary, we both knew that." "Don't," I stood up, anger flaring, "don't use this as an excuse to push me away again." "It's not an excuse, it's reality." He stood too. Frustration radiating from him. "What's your plan here, Ethan? Quit your career to work on a ranch that might not even want you? Stay in Montana hopping I can find another job nearby? Put your whole life on hold for someone you met 3 months ago?" Maybe that's exactly what I want to do." "That's insane." "Why? Because it's not practical, because it doesn't make sense on paper." I stepped closer to him. "I spent my whole life doing what made sense. I followed the plan: college, career, relationship. And you know what? I was miserable. For the first time, I'm happy. I'm happy here with you doing this work. Why is that so hard for you to accept?" "Because it won't last." His voice cracked. "People like you don't stay. They get bored, or they miss their old life, or they wake up one day and realize they made a mistake. And then what? You leave and I'm the one left picking up the pieces." The words hung in the air and I suddenly understood. "This isn't about me at all. Someone did this to you before, didn't they?" His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "Who was he?" I asked softly. Wyatt sank onto the bed, his shoulders slumping. After a long moment, he started talking. "Connor, we met when I was working on a ranch in Colorado 5 years ago. He was out from New York doing some kind of finding himself thing. Said he loved ranch life, loved me." His voice was bitter. "Lasted 8 months. Then his father got sick and he went back to the city for what was supposed to be a week. Ended up taking over the family business. Called me 2 months later to say it wasn't working, that he'd met someone else, someone who fit his life there." "Wyatt." "I'm not him," I wanted to say, but was I? Wasn't I doing exactly what Connor had done? Running from my old life, finding myself in the wilderness, falling for the ruggedly handsome cowboy? How could I promise I wouldn't wake up one day and realize I missed my old comforts? I couldn't, and that uncertainty stretched between us like a chasm. The next 2 weeks were agony. We worked together because we had to, but the easy intimacy was gone, replaced by painful politeness. At night, Wyatt stayed in the main house instead of coming to the bunkhouse. I lay awake missing the warmth of his presence, the sound of his breathing. I called Marcus, desperate for perspective. "So let me get this straight," he said after I'd explained everything. "You found love, found work you enjoy, found a place where you're happy, and you're thinking of walking away because it might not work out. It's more complicated than that. Is it, or are you just scared?" The words hit like a slap. What? Ethan, you spent a year with Derek being miserable because you were too scared to admit the relationship wasn't working. You took this ranch job because you were too scared to face your real feelings. Now you've actually found something real and you're scared it might end badly, so you're sabotaging it before it can hurt you. That's not, I stopped. Was he right? Was I so afraid of being hurt again that I was choosing to hurt first? "What do you actually want?" Marcus asked. "Not what makes sense, not what's practical. What do you want?" The answer came immediately, certain and clear. "I want to stay, I want to be with Wyatt, I want this life." "Then fight for it, you idiot." I found Wyatt in the barn the next morning, feeding the horses. He looked up when I entered, his expression carefully neutral. "Need something?" "Yeah, I need you to listen to me." He set down the feed bucket, waiting. "You're right," I said. "I can't promise I'll never change my mind. I can't guarantee that in 5 years or 10 years I won't miss the city or want something different. But here's what I can promise, I'm not Connor." His jaw tightened at the name. "I know he hurt you, I know he made promises and broke them, but I'm not him, and this isn't that. I'm not running from anything anymore. I'm running toward something, toward you, toward this life, toward the person I'm becoming here." "Ethan." "I called my old boss yesterday," I continued. "Told him I'm not coming back, I'm staying through the winter, and I'm going to talk to Dale about a permanent position. If Tyler takes over and fires us both, then we'll figure it out together. We'll find another ranch or start our own operation or do something completely different. I don't care as long as it's with you." Wyatt stared at me, something vulnerable and hopeful breaking through his guarded expression. "You can't just upend your entire life for me." "I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for me. You just happen to be a very significant part of what I want." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. "You're crazy." "Probably. Is it working?" He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides and kissed me hard, his hands framing my face. When he pulled back, his eyes were bright. "I'm terrified," he admitted, "of believing this, of letting myself hope." "Me too," I said, "but I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you." He laughed, and the sound was like sunshine breaking through clouds. "That might be the corniest thing you've ever said. Ranch life is making me soft." "No," he kissed me again, softer this time, "it's making you honest." We told Dale about us that afternoon. He listened, nodded, and said, "About damn time, thought you boys were going to dance around it forever." Turns out everyone on the ranch had noticed the tension between us. The other hands, the stable manager, even the cook, they'd all been watching our awkward courtship with varying degrees of amusement. "Tyler might have opinions when he takes over," Dale warned. "But that's if he takes over. I'm not planning on dying anytime soon, and my sister's been making noises about her daughter taking an interest in ranch management. Tyler's not as inevitable as he thinks." It wasn't a guarantee, but it was hope, and that was enough. Present day 12:47 a.m. Which brought me back to that night 3 weeks later. The knock on the door, Wyatt's urgent voice, "Open up, we need to talk about what happened today." I opened the door. Wyatt stood there in the moonlight, still in his work clothes, his hat in his hands. "What's wrong?" My heart was already racing. "Nothing's wrong." He stepped inside and I could see the brightness in his eyes, the barely contained energy. "Dale called me into his office after dinner. His niece, Rebecca, came by. She's been working in ranch management in Texas, wants to come back home. Dale's making her co-manager, training her to eventually take over." I felt the knot in my chest loosen. "Tyler is out," Dale told him tonight. "Rebecca takes over when Dale retires." "Wyatt, that's amazing." "That's not the only thing." He was smiling now, that rare full smile that transformed his whole face. Dale offered me a partnership stake, said he's wanted to do it for years, and with Rebecca coming on board, it makes sense to secure the management team. I'd own part of the ranch, Ethan. I threw my arms around him and he lifted me off the ground, laughing. When he set me down, his expression turned serious. I told him I'd only accept if there was a position for you too, permanent, equal pay to the other hands with the chance to work up to assistant foreman. My throat tightened with emotion. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. We're a team now. Whatever comes, we face it together. I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it, gratitude, love, hope for the future. When we broke apart, I rested my forehead against his. So I guess I really am staying. Guess so, city boy. I haven't been a city boy for months. No, he agreed, his thumb tracing my jawline. You're a ranch hand now, my ranch hand. Yours. If you want to be. I smiled. I want to be. We stood there in the quiet bunkhouse holding each other, the Montana night vast and starlit outside. 6 months ago I'd been broken and lost. Now I was found, not just a place to live but a purpose, a community, and a love I'd never expected. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be hard winters, difficult work, challenges I couldn't yet imagine, but with Wyatt beside me I was ready for all of it. I'd come to the ranch looking for an escape. Instead, I'd found home. 3 months later. The first snow of winter dusted the mountains as Wyatt and I rode out to check the northern pastures. I sat easier in the saddle now, my body adapted to the rhythm of ranch life. My hands were calloused, my shoulders broader, my skin weathered by sun and wind. Rebecca had taken to ranch management like she was born for it, bringing fresh ideas while respecting the traditions that made Twin Pines special. She'd met me with a firm handshake and a knowing smile, saying, Wyatt talks about you constantly. It's nauseating. We'd laughed, but I'd caught Wyatt's blush. The way he ducked his head in embarrassment. Later he'd admitted, I might have mentioned you once or twice. Once or twice. Okay, fine, you're kind of all I talk about. Now, as we reached the ridge, Wyatt pulled his horse to a stop. The view stretched endlessly, mountains, prairie, sky bleeding pink and gold with sunset. Never gets old, I said. No, but when I looked over, he was watching me, not the landscape. It doesn't. My heart did that familiar flip, see something you like, Foreman. Maybe. He guided his horse closer until our knees touched. You planning on staying a while? Might be. Why you trying to get rid of me? Opposite, his hand found mine between the horses, thinking maybe we should make it official. I blinked. Official how? He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. My breath stopped. Now I know it's fast, he said, his voice unsteady. And maybe it's crazy, but I spent too long being scared and I don't want to waste any more time. Ethan, read, would you? Yes, the word burst out before he could finish. Whatever you're asking, yes. He laughed, opening the box to reveal 2 simple silver bands. You didn't even let me finish the question. Don't need to, the answer's yes. He slipped one ring onto my finger and I did the same for him. They were perfect, solid and simple and real. I love you, he said, and the words seemed to echo across the vast landscape. I love you too. We kissed there on the ridge, 2 cowboys on horseback, silhouetted against the setting sun. It was cinematic and ridiculous and absolutely perfect. When we rode back to the ranch, the lights of home glowing in the distance, I realized I'd finally found what I'd been searching for all along. Not an escape, not a fantasy, but a real, imperfect, beautiful life worth living. And I was never letting it go. Epilogue 1 year later. The wedding was small, just the ranch hands, Dale and Rebecca, Marcus and a few friends from the city, Wyatt's sister and her family. We held it in the valley where wild horses grazed, with the mountains as our witnesses. I wore my best jeans and a white shirt. Wyatt wore his with the black hat he'd been wearing the day we met. When Dale, ordained online for the occasion, pronounced us married, the assembled crowd hooted and hollered like we'd won a rodeo. That night, in the cabin Wyatt and I had built together on our section of land, my partnership stake had come through 6 months prior. We lay in bed, watching the stars through the skylight. Any regrets? Wyatt asked, his fingers tracing patterns on my shoulder. I thought about my old life, the corporate job, the city apartment, the version of myself I'd been. That person felt like a stranger now. Not a single one, I said, you. Just that I didn't knock on your bunkhouse door sooner. I laughed, turning to face him. You knocked at exactly the right time. Yeah, he kissed my forehead, my cheek, my lips. I guess I did. Outside, a coyote howled at the moon. The wind whispered through the pines. And inside our little cabin, two cowboys, one raised in the saddle, one who found his way there, held each other close and dreamed of all the tomorrows still to come. Sometimes the best love stories aren't the ones you plan. They're the ones that find you when you're brave enough to be found.